بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء وإمام المرسلين سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I hope your fast has gone well. We're going to continue now with the third juz from the text Contemplating the Quran, looking at the themes of each 30-part division of the Quran. And in part 3, the theme is obstacles and impediments to responding to the message, covering Surah Al-Baqarah and Ali Imran. Among the most dangerous of man's preoccupations, that which enfeebles his interaction with the divine message and diverts his attention from adhering to the principles to which he has committed himself, is immoderate attachment to worldly desires. The most manifest of these are desire for wealth, family, and children. Attachment to them veils one from reflecting on their true nature as temporal and fleeting, and makes any sacrifice relating to them extremely difficult on the soul. Sometimes, in fact, they become barriers impeding one from journeying to God with sincerity and diligence. The verses of the third juz warn against unhealthy attachment to such things. Although attachments are, at root, part of human nature and unproblematic in that regard, the danger lies entirely in attachments that cause selfishness, stinginess, cowardice, and fear to pervade the heart. It is expected of a Muslim that they acknowledge the bestower before acknowledging what is bestowed, for doing so brings about gratitude and generosity, as well as preoccupation with the giver rather than the gift. On the other hand, to recognize only the blessing afflicts man with miserliness and destructive attachment to it. Hence the verses of this part commence with this concept: O believers, give freely from that which we have provisioned you with, before there comes a day when trade will not avail you, that is to say money, nor friendship, nor intercession, that is to say close family ties. That's Surah Baqarah, verse 254. يا أيها الذين آمنوا أنفقوا مما رزقناكم من قبل أن يأتي يوم لا بيع فيه ولا خلة ولا شفاعة. The succeeding then verses continue as follows. Firstly, an affirmation of the reality, lowliness, and brevity of human life, despite man's aggrandizement of it because of his weak perception and limited intellect. These verses closely connect to the following story of Uzair or Ezra, then that of Abraham, who wished to reassure himself and increase his certainty by witnessing precisely how God revives the dead. It transpires that this occurs through the awe-inspiring power of God that cannot be encompassed by human intellect. Rather, in the face of it, one can only affirm one's own complete inability and utter humility, as mentioned in verse 260. Secondly, an exposition of the reality of giving. This is not diminishment of wealth, as some might imagine, but its remaining and even growing. The giver's subsistence thereby increases, and becomes like a seed that sends forth 7 shoots, each bearing 100 seeds. Thus these verses build on man's natural desire and love for increase in all things by turning him to giving. They address him directly. God increases whomever he wills, 261, and clarify for him that what he spends will continue to grow in every state. It is like a garden which doubles its produce, and if heavy rain does not fall, then even a light drizzle will bring it to fruition. Thus it is good in all circumstances, just as even meager charity is beneficial. And this is the parable mentioned in verse 265. Thirdly, an explanation of the practicalities of dealing with one's wealth in giving, with a focus on its proper manners, specifically that one gives to one deserving of it and avoids hurtfulness and belittlement, which negate the goodness of the act. قَوْلٌ مَعْرُوفٌ خَيْرٌ مِّن صَدَقَةٍ يَتْبَعُهَا أَذًى. Drawing a clear line in monetary transactions so as to safeguard mutual rights and preserve relationships. These include avoidance of usury, pursuing permissible forms of income, and distancing oneself from exploitativeness. There is also an exhortation to record debts and loan transactions, and a clarification of the rules of guarantorship and other such matters. Then we come to Surah Ali Imran. The following chapter then returns to emphasizing the lowliness of these desires. Though they may seem attractive to those who seek them, the reality is that they are not as they appear to the onlooker. All goodness is rather found in loving obedience and renunciation. As Allah says, the love of desires is made beautiful for man. Women, children, hoarded wealth of gold and silver, these are the trappings of the life of the fleeting world. And that's Ali Imran, verse 14. Examples are then given that we might emulate of Mary's mother and Zachariah, both of whom made desire for children a path to the good pleasure of God and a means to salvation in the life eternal. Likewise, we are told, is the one who makes his wealth a means to success by giving it away in deserving causes and protecting it from undeserving ones. And lastly, wealth gets the better of some of its possessors by corrupting their principles. But this is not the case for all people of wealth, nor is it linked to the amount of wealth owned. One possessed of sincere convictions will stand by them unshakably, whilst an unprincipled and greedy person can be corrupted by the smallest amount. Thus the verses inform us of those who will not betray their principles, even if they are given a treasure hoard, but also of those who will not hesitate to be faithless, even entrusted with a single dinar. Consideration should thus be given to sincerity, and realizing the reality and true value of wealth, that it is a means and not an end, and that a person will not attain righteousness until they free themselves from the captivity of these desires and give willingly and joyfully, not begrudgingly, from that which they naturally love, and not merely from that of which they wish to be rid. I pray this is of benefit to you, inshaAllah. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.